Why exactly do we act the way we do? As I listen to the news on a daily basis, as I listen, read the news, go through newspapers, go on social media, one thing is constant. As young people, as a result of our youthful exuberance, we do a lot of stupid things. When we do these things, at such times we are not yet popular, nobody knows us, nobody cares what we do. Even the people we hurt almost do nothing about what it is that we do. Sometimes at the time we hurt them, they don't have the resources, they don't have the wherewithal, they don't have the connection, they don't have the relationships that can help them access justice. And so we do things and then we move on with our lives. And then much later in life, 10 years later, 20 years later, now we are popular, we have attained celebrity status, we're now bishops, we're now pastors, we're now clergymen, we're now presidents of nations, governors, we're now legislators, we're now judges, all kinds of things where we're now stars in arts, in music, in drama, whatever. And then from nowhere, the people we've hurt get to hear about us, get to hear about our fame. They're still hurt, they're still bleeding. Now they have relationships, people who can stand up to us. And before you know it, everything you've attained by way of stardom, everything you've attained by way of success is going down the drain. And I dare speak to you, as many as are listening to me today. You may be young, you may not be at the place where anything matters to you, and you're like, who knows what's going to happen, nothing's going to happen, do I care a thing? Listen. Life is too dynamic to take for granted. Some of the things we're doing today, they're going to mess with us in the coming days. They're going to mess with us, and you don't want to do that. Some of the people who today are occupying public office and are being haunted by their past could have corrected it from the onset. You are battling with a lifestyle. You are battling with an addiction. It's overwhelming you. It's not that that's what you would have loved to do. But now you're overwhelmed by certain things that you can't even explain. Why not step out there and look for a permanent solution? Because at the end of the day, it's going to mess you up, and trust me, you don't want to do that. When it will matter most, it's going to mess with you. But there's something you can do. You know what's funny about this whole thing? For some of these people, they probably have repented. They probably decided for a new lease of life. They're not going to do that no more. They're not moving on with their lives. And from nowhere, all that success is going down the drain because of youthful exuberance, omissions, and mistakes in the earliest part of their lives. I am of the view that even when you have come to a point where you've made up your mind for a new lease of life, there is a way to navigate. There is a way to go about it. You don't just start doing your life like you didn't hurt nobody, that you didn't mess with nobody. No, you don't do that. You have to take the right steps to deal with these things. And so that brings us to my conversation for today. Listen. Every time I want to help people deal with addictions, compulsions, and all kinds of lifestyle issues, I always like to bring them to that place. The first thing I do is bring them to that place where they can understand, if possible, why exactly they act the way they do. So let that be my focus for conversation today. The question is, why do we act the way we do? Why are we struggling with stuff? Why is your life the way it is? Not many of us realize that we act the way we do because of the history of our exposures. There is an exposure growing up. There are things we have been exposed to that is messing with us. Now let me tell you this. The human mind, at the point of birth, we are told, comes as a blank slate. It's empty, but it's open. In that state, it is unspoiled, it is pure, it is uncorrupted, it is unstained. That's the way it's come. But the thing about the human mind at birth is that as soon as you are born, your mind begins to take the shape of its immediate environment. Your mind begins to be configured. It's like a chameleon. It begins to reflect its exact environment. It doesn't mind. The mind is not careful to understand whether what it is reflecting is negative, whether what it is reflecting is positive. That's oblivious to the mind. The mind just begins to take that shape, and so whatsoever presents itself to the human mind, the mind begins to adjust to that reality. It becomes its conditioner. It is the reason why I tell people 1,000 times, listen, what a lot of us call, this is my preference, this is my sexual orientation, this is my preferred learning mode. Listen, I can't function in a noisy environment. It has to be quiet. I can't function in a quiet environment. The music has to be playing at the background. This is my preferred color. Some of us are like, this is my preferred this is my preferred that. Excuse me, a lot of these preferences are mere products of exposure. A lot of us have not done life enough, long enough, to even know the way we are wired, to even know the way we are configured, to even know our exact shape and configuration. A lot of us have no idea who we are. We need to do life some more to be able to actually look at the options available in life to really know our configuration. Trust me, you have no idea. We're just reacting to modalities that were shaped and framed by our initial environment. I'll give you a typical example. So this child grows up, he lives with a father who cannot function in a noisy environment. It has to be quiet. He can't read. If he reads in a noisy environment, he can't comprehend. And so he literally compels everybody, wife, children, everybody in the family is now acculturated to the thought that we can only function in a quiet environment. But that's not the truth. That probably may be true for the father. It may not be true for everybody. Take the same child. A few years down the line, something happens and the child has to, by situation or circumstance, go live with an uncle. And now this uncle lives in a factory. That's his domain. That is his habitat. He lives in a factory, and because of the factory, production is 24/7. So there are generators running every moment of the day. There are plants that are steaming, and everybody is living within the factory premises. And you have to read, you have to pray, you have to meditate, you have to do everything you got to do in the same environment. The same child will suddenly realize that I thought I can't function in a noisy environment. Now I can. It means that inherent in the capacity of the human mind is the ability to adjust to whatever environment. It is at that point the child haven't tested a quiet environment and a noisy environment, might even come to realize, oh, I even prefer the noisy environment. Haven't you seen today that most young people can't function unless there is a earpiece, a music playing at the background? My own kids will always, to do their dishes, they want to play music, to wash the clothes, they want to play music, to read, they want to play music. Many years ago, you couldn't imagine that anybody can read and comprehend in a noisy environment. But that's the reality today. It reveals the capacity of the human mind to adjust to its environment. I could give you examples upon examples upon examples in biblical history. We are told that Jacob worked with Laban, his boss, and Laban was messing with the guy. 10 times Laban cheated on Jacob. And so at this point, because Jacob was a man of destiny, an angel had to appear to Jacob in the dream of the night. What did the angel tell Jacob? In the dream of the night, the angel educated Jacob. He said, listen, when next those animals are going to mate and produce, this is the way you can control the design, the skin design, the bodily design of the animals. Now, every time you want the animals to produce striped, that means animals that have stripes on their body, this is what it is you're going to do. Just before the animals mate, make a design of the style you want the offspring to look like. When you make the design, take them animals to the stream as they are mating. Make sure that they are looking at the kind of design you want the offsprings to look like. The angel said to Jacob, whatever the animal can see at the point of mating will control the offspring, the design, the looks of the offspring that it's going to produce. Wow. And every time you want them plain designs, do the same thing. So this time, Laban had signed an undertaking with Jacob that all them striped animals were going to be Laban's own. And so what Jacob did was he made a plain design for them animals, and as they were mating, they were looking, and all the offsprings were plain. Laban said, no, I'm not going to do this no more. Laban said, no, let's change it. Now I want them plain animals. Jacob went out there, did his design, and every time the animals were mating, they were looking at stripes. And so the kids that came out were striped. That way, Jacob was able to acquire wealth. All of them wealth of Jacob came from that single episode. Listen to this. What that tells us is that whatever the human mind is exposed to controls its output. We can control our output by controlling our exposure. This is profound. Just the way it works for dealing with addictions, trust me, it can work for dealing with any other human endeavor. Whatever we want to succeed at in life, our vision, what we can see, and don't forget, we do not only see with the eyes, we actually see with the mind. The eyes is just one of the outlets, the channels through which the mind sees. It is the reason why, even if you can't see with the eyes, but you can see with the mind, it doesn't matter that the eyes cannot see. But if you can see with the eyes, but you cannot see with the mind, what the eyes can see is useless. So to be able to control our output, we must control what our minds see and what they are capable of seeing. This is so profound. The human mind is so photographic. The human mind is so capable of reproducing whatsoever it is exposed to. Interestingly, the human mind will not only learn, it is capable of unlearning whatever it has learned. It is capable of unlearning whatever it has been exposed to. There is no lifestyle, there is no attitude, there is no compulsion, there is no addiction that we can't reverse using reverse engineering. If it is exposure that brought us to that point of addiction, we can, through exposure, re-navigate our way out. So at the onset, the human mind is so impressionable, it always is. And so as soon as the human mind gathers these impressions and then becomes set, it becomes difficult to unset or reset the human mind. That's what we call mindset. It means that the human mind has been set in a particular fashion, in a particular frame, that is now controlling output from the body. It's what is making you compelled to smoke, compelled to do pornography, compelled to be addicted to sex and to all them kind of lifestyles. And I'm saying they are reversible. So that even though the mind has become set, it can be unset. It can be reset. Difficult, but not impossible. All of the times. I'm saying to you that an addiction is the way the mind has become set as a result of an exposure or multiple exposure. So you get some kind of exposure and then you keep at it, you keep doing it, you keep practicing it. The mind becomes fixated on it, and then it's so challenging, it's so difficult to break free from it. This is so profound. If we are going to be able to break free, deal with these lifestyles that we are enslaved to, then there has to be a reprogramming of the mind. This reprogramming of the mind is what behavior mastery is all about, is what I am busy about, is what I consult for, is what I am empowering people to get into. You can break free from whatever it is. that you are dealing with. Somebody's going to ask me, why is it all about the mind? What of the human spirit? Of course, the human spirit is going to serve as the resource, as the engine room, as the toolbox that you will, from where you will download resources into the mind to control the exposures of the mind. But ultimately, whatever you download from the human spirit, having educated the human spirit, having enlightened the human spirit, if you don't do the work at the mind level, which is the point of decision, the point of making choices, the point of conditioning our determination, then you can't get the result that you want to get. It's so important that we're able to deal with the mind. So I don't care what it is that you're dealing with, whether it is alcohol, whether it is sex, whether it is drugs, whether it is cigarettes, whether it's pornographic materials, whether it's marijuana, whether it is same-sex attraction. Let me say this. Many of us have this insatiable craving for things. Listen, these cravings, we're so enslaved by them. They've taken center stage of our lives. They have become more important than God. They've become more important than family. They've become more important than friends. We're so obsessed with them and insatiable. We're at this point where nothing appeases us. We're at this point where nothing, our restlessness is insatiable. Nothing can satisfy our yearning unless we are guaranteed a steady supply of whatever it is that we're addicted to. That's where a lot of us are. Some of us even prefer certain death than to experience a dull sex life. And I understand that, understandably so, because an addiction is an enslavement. An addiction is a conditioning. Unless you understand how to break free and navigate. And I dare you to stop believing that it is not possible to break free from what it is that you're dealing with. The human mind is too powerful for you to think like that. The human mind is too dynamic. All you got to do is garbage in, garbage out. Get them loaded in the human mind to the point of saturation, and the human mind will control what the body does. Trust me, that is what happens. So this pathological fixation on this craving that has taken over our lives, and we have become helplessly powerful. We got to deal with it today. It will mess up tomorrow. We got to deal with it today. It will listen, when you have arrived in life, when you have succeeded, you are now a celebrity. You are not the president of a nation. You are not the governor of a state. You are now something people are looking up to. Then all of a sudden, the people you've hurt are going to chase you. They're going to trail you down. They're going to mess with all you have achieved. All you put together in 30 years can go down the drain because of one mistake you did in the past. And I'm telling you, you don't want to do that. You don't want to give that a chance. Let me tell you what most of us have come to the conclusion. There are two conclusions that most of us have come to. Because of the overwhelm, because we've been overcome, because we are now helplessly, hopelessly fixated on these things, many of us, instead of accepting that I have been defeated, I need help, what we do is that we claim that, oh, it's my lifestyle, it's my choice, it's how I've decided to do my life. And you know that that's not the truth. What you are actually doing is that haven't fought the best you can, haven't done all that you can do. You've given up, you've given in, you've caved in, you've surrendered. And so you hide your defeat under the guise that the next conclusion that people have come to is the conclusion of claiming this is how I was created. We have come to the place where we're like, oh, this is how I was made. Oh, no, this is my sexual orientation by birth. This is my default mode. This is how I was born. This is who I am. That's another lie we tell ourselves. We hide under defeat. We hide under, we're not bold enough to come out to say, wow, I can't help myself, I need help. So we hide, we try to be bold, falsely bold, by saying, no, this is my making, this is how I was wired, this is how God created me. All of the times we make these conclusions, we lie. That's the truth. This is defeatist. It is our way of hiding our defeat and succumbing to the overwhelm of these exposures. And I dare you, I challenge you. My mission here today is to motivate you to take the bull by the horn. Hear this and hear this loud and clear. I agree that all adult behavior is the result of childhood exposures. I agree. But please, one of the marks of adulthood, one of the signs, one of the indicators that you are truly now an adult is your ability to brace up, is your ability to take responsibility for your actions, the ability to take responsibility for your slavery and for your addictions. Listen, you can't do life passing the blame. You can't do life always looking for who is responsible for where you are. I'm sorry for what you had to deal with. I'm sorry for what you got exposed to. I was sexually abused before I was 10. I'm sorry for all that you had to deal with at such a time, at such an age. But hear me, continuing to put the blame on an experience that, if you ask me, should empower you to do life with a better perspective, if possible, to even help other people who are dealing with the same stuff. You can't keep putting the blame on that stuff and go forward. The blame will stagnate you. The blame will put you at a spot where you can't go further than you have gone. So wake up, smell the coffee, take responsibility for your actions, because we can no longer claim or hide under childhood exposures. No, not when we have the resources, we have what it takes to take the bull by the horn and decide that this is enough and this is over. Let me round it up this way for today. Now, there are two things most of us are dealing with under addiction. Number one, we've been exposed to certain things that are pleasant to our taste. And so we keep going back to it to derive that pleasure. But for some of us, it's not about pleasantness. For some of us, it's actually we've been exposed to something that is painful. And so each time we go back to sex, each time we go back to alcohol, each time we go back to drugs, each time we go back to sex, whatever it is we're dealing with, we're just looking for that thing that gives us that temporary relief. We're looking for that thing that makes us forget our pain for a while, our sorrow for a while. So it drives us to a point where we sleep off, we wake up in the morning, we can't remember them sorrows immediately, but before the next day is over, thoughts, flashes of thought, flashes of memory, things just crop up that bring you back to square one, brings you back to depression mode, and before you know, the cycle continues. And so now you have to depend on that substance, that action, that lifestyle to keep putting yourself in oblivion. You can't do that. No, you can't do that for too long. You know why? Because that thing is damaging you. Because that thing is destroying you. Because that thing is messing with your future. It will mess with it's messing with your present. It will mess with your future. Many of us had all kinds of exposures, childhood exposures, peer group exposures, age group exposures, workplace exposures, home place exposures that is messing with us. And there is something in our past that we are reacting to. There's something in our past that we're responding to. There's something in our past that we're running away from. If you don't take time to think, you won't remember where they started, and now you need to cut it off. You need to deal with it. It is what is making us fixated on this craving. A lot of us are trying to overcome fear, childhood fears. A lot of us, our addiction started with battling with grief. A lot of us were battling with betrayal, insecurities, failure, loneliness, abuse, poverty. For some of us, it is the insecurity of a very low esteem. We're trying to hide shame. We're trying to hide all kinds of things that are messing with our emotions and our mindset, and without knowing, it takes us back to this lifestyle that is crippling, literally, crippling our destinies. I can't wait to help you break free from this. Listen, you have all it takes. No, you have all it takes. These cravings might help you cope or deal with the problem for a while. They only provide temporary reliefs. They don't deal with the root of the matter. If they deal with the root of the matter, you wouldn't need to go back to them. You don't need to get fixated on those thoughts. And yet these cravings are going to mess things up. I'm therefore suggesting my solution, my proposition is that instead of temporary reliefs, let's deal with the real issues. That's the way to experience the true freedom, and that's the way to go about it. That's what this conversation is about. That's what the book I wrote, Prison Break, is also about. I want to encourage you, make up your mind, believe in yourself, convince yourself, accept the truth that you have what it takes. That as soon as there is a will, there will be a way. That as soon as you have a why, you will create, you will know it, what it takes to break free, to move to the next level. I've talked with people who insist that an homosexual, a lesbian, or somebody that has same-sex orientations can't break free once. How dare you? How dare you? Listen, there are forces that when your mind is engaged to them, not to talk of when the human spirit experiences genuine transformation by an encounter with light. When Saul, as he then was, encountered a light on his way to Damascus, he fell from the ground, heard a voice, became blind for 3 days, rose up from that encounter and was completely transformed. The devil is a liar. Don't let nobody mess with you or convince you that change is impossible, or once any person is in that situation, they can't be free. Who told you? How dare you? Listen, when people genuinely encounter the Christ, they will experience a transformation. But beyond encountering the Christ, there are these other things we must talk about that will help you navigate in your journey, not just to freedom, but to mastery. I'll keep sharing these thoughts as we go. I hope to be back again tomorrow to share some more thoughts with you. But I hope the few things I've shared have given you some value that can guide you on your journey. I look forward to another time with you tomorrow. I'm sorry, I've got to go. Thank you for being here. Share the link. Share it to everybody. Tell everybody that needs to hear this. Get it across to them as quickly as possible. Join the wagon for the total liberation of people. We got to do this because before it becomes hopelessly and everlastingly too late. Thank you so much for being part of this. I believe you got value. Drop me questions, make comments, share the news. Let people know that there is good news on the other end. I'll see you again. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. To His Majesty, all praises be. Pure and holy, giving glory to the King.